Every person who doubts you is actually confessing their own limitations. When someone tells you that you can't achieve something, they're not making a statement about you. They're making a statement about themselves. They're telling you about the dreams they abandoned, the risks they were too scared to take, the potential they buried under fear. The same people who call you unrealistic have been unrealistic about their own capabilities for years. They've convinced themselves that mediocrity is wisdom and that settling is smart. But here's what they don't want you to know. Their opinion of you is actually their opinion of themselves. Right now, somewhere in your city, there's a person washing dishes in a restaurant kitchen who has the solution to a problem that billion-dollar companies haven't figured out yet. Nobody knows his name. Nobody asks for his opinion in meetings. When he walks into a room, conversations don't stop. But inside his mind, there's a revolution waiting to happen. This isn't just a story I'm telling you. This is your story. This is the story of every person who has ever been counted out, looked over, or dismissed as ordinary. You see? The greatest trick the world ever played on extraordinary people was convincing them they were ordinary. Let me tell you about Maria. She cleaned offices in a tech company for 3 years. Every night, she'd empty trash cans filled with crumpled papers from frustrated programmers. She'd wipe down whiteboards covered with complex equations and code that made no sense to anyone else. But Maria had a secret. She was studying, not in a classroom, but in those empty offices. She was reading those crumpled papers, understanding those equations, teaching herself what the highly paid experts couldn't figure out. The company was bleeding money. They had a software problem that was costing them millions. Teams of engineers with degrees from prestigious universities worked 16-hour days trying to solve it. Consultants charging thousands per hour flew in from around the world. Nothing worked. The solution remained elusive. And the company was facing bankruptcy. One night, Maria couldn't hold it in anymore. She wrote a simple note and left it on the CEO's desk. I know how to fix your software problem. The cleaning lady, Maria, 3rd floor. The next morning, the CEO found the note. His first instinct was to throw it away. A cleaning lady solving a problem that had stumped MIT graduates. But desperation makes people do strange things. He called Maria into his office. 20 minutes later, Maria had outlined the exact solution. Not only did she solve the problem, but she also identified 3 other issues the company didn't even know they had. Today, Maria is the chief technology officer of that same company. The people who used to ignore her now depend on her for the company's survival. But here's what I want you to understand. Maria wasn't transformed that day. She was revealed. The greatness was always there. The capability was always present. The genius was always active. What changed wasn't Maria. What changed was their ability to see what had always been there, you see. When people doubt you, they're not seeing you clearly. They're seeing their own limitations reflected back at them. They're seeing their own fears, their own insecurities, their own inability to recognize potential that doesn't come wrapped in the packaging they expect. A security guard who walks through your office building every night might be the next great novelist. The barista who serves your coffee might have the cure for a disease that's plagued humanity for centuries. The single mother working 2 jobs to make ends meet might be the next great leader who transforms an entire industry. The world has trained us to look for greatness in the wrong places. We expect it to come with titles, degrees, and expensive suits. We expect it to announce itself with fanfare and credentials. But real greatness often comes quietly. It comes through the side door. It comes from the places we least expect. When Thomas Edison's teachers said he was too stupid to learn anything, they weren't seeing Edison clearly. They were seeing their own inability to recognize genius that didn't fit their narrow definition. When Albert Einstein's professor called him lazy and told him he would never amount to anything, he wasn't seeing Einstein clearly. He was seeing his own failure to understand how extraordinary minds work. Every person who has ever changed the world started as someone who was underestimated. Every breakthrough, every innovation, every solution to problems that seemed impossible to solve came from someone who was dismissed, ignored, or counted out. This is why being underestimated is actually your advantage. While others are competing for recognition, you're developing in secret. While others are fighting for the spotlight, you're building substance. While others are playing politics, you're solving problems. While others are talking about what they're going to do, you're already doing it. The people who doubt you today will be the same people who will claim they always believed in you tomorrow. The same voices that whisper, "You're not good enough," will shout, "We knew you had it in you," when your moment comes. The same people who close doors in your face will be the ones begging you to open doors for them. But here's what you must never forget. Your worth was never determined by their opinion. Your value was never dependent on their recognition. Your potential was never limited by their understanding. You were always who you are today. You always had what it takes. You always possessed what the world needed. The question isn't whether you're good enough. The question is whether you're ready to show them what they missed. The question isn't whether you have what it takes. The question is whether you're prepared to use what you've always had right now. While they're doubting you, while they're overlooking you, while they're dismissing you, you have a choice. You can spend your energy trying to convince them of your worth, or you can spend your energy increasing your worth. You can waste time fighting for their recognition, or you can use that time preparing for your moment, because your moment is coming. The situation that will require your specific talents, your unique perspective, your particular solution is already forming. The crisis that will make your capabilities essential is already developing. The need that will make you indispensable is already growing. And when that moment arrives, when the crisis hits, when the need becomes urgent, all the doubt will disappear. All the questions will be answered. All the skepticism will be replaced by gratitude. Because in that moment, you won't be the person they underestimated. You'll be the person they desperately need. But why do people doubt you in the first place? What is it about your potential that makes them so uncomfortable? What is it about your dreams that makes them so quick to dismiss them? The answer will surprise you, because it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. Doubt is not an assessment of your abilities. Doubt is a confession of their fears. When someone looks at you and says, "You can't do that," they're not making a statement about your capabilities. They're making a statement about their own limitations. They're telling you about the walls they've built around their own lives, the boundaries they've accepted for their own potential. Let me tell you about James. He grew up in a small town where nobody had ever started a business. His father worked in the factory, his grandfather worked in the factory, and everyone expected James to work in the factory too. When James announced he was going to start his own company, the entire town became his critic. They didn't just doubt him, they were offended by him. "Who does he think he is?" they whispered. "What makes him think he's better than the rest of us?" But James wasn't thinking he was better than anyone. He was simply refusing to accept that their limitations had to become his limitations. He was rejecting the idea that their fears had to become his fears. You see, when James talked about starting a business, he wasn't just talking about his own future. He was holding up a mirror to everyone else's surrendered dreams. He was reminding them of all the things they had wanted to do but had convinced themselves were impossible. He was forcing them to confront the fact that maybe, just maybe, they had given up too easily. This is why your success threatens people more than your failure ever could. Your failure confirms their decision to play it safe. Your success challenges their decision to give up. Your breakthrough forces them to question whether their limitations were real or just accepted. The people who doubt you the most are often the people who once had similar dreams but abandoned them. They're the ones who wanted to write a book but convinced themselves they weren't smart enough. They're the ones who wanted to start a business but decided they didn't have what it takes. They're the ones who wanted to make a difference but settled for making excuses when they see you pursuing what they gave up on. It creates a conflict in their minds. Either they were right to give up, or they gave up too easily. Either the dream was impossible, or they lacked the courage to pursue it. Either the barriers were real, or they were just barriers they chose to accept. So they choose to believe the dream is impossible. They choose to believe you don't have what it takes. They choose to believe you're being unrealistic, impractical, or foolish. Because if they believe in your possibility, they have to confront their own abandoned possibilities. This is why criticism often comes from the people closest to you. It's not because they don't love you. It's because they love themselves too much to admit they might have given up too easily. It's easier to convince you that your dream is impossible than to admit they stopped believing in their own. But here's what you need to understand. Their doubt is not evidence of your limitation. Their fear is not proof of your inadequacy. Their surrender is not a preview of your destiny. Their no is not the final word on your potential. The same people who tell you to be realistic have often been unrealistic about their own potential. The same people who tell you to play it safe have often played it so safe they forgot how to live. The same people who tell you to lower your expectations have often lowered their own expectations so much they've forgotten what it feels like to hope. When someone doubts your ability to succeed, ask yourself, what did they want to do that they never did? What dream did they abandon? What goal did they give up on? What potential did they bury? Because their doubt of you is often just the echo of their doubt of themselves. This doesn't make them bad people. It makes them human. It makes them people who have been hurt by disappointment, discouraged by setbacks, and defeated by challenges. But their experience doesn't have to become your experience. Their story doesn't have to become your story. Their ending doesn't have to become your ending. The most dangerous thing you can do is let their doubt become your doubt. The most tragic thing you can do is let their fear become your fear. The most wasteful thing you can do is let their limitations become your limitations. Because while they're doubting you, life is preparing you. While they're questioning your potential, circumstances are developing your capabilities. While they're wondering if you have what it takes, you're already becoming what the world needs. You see, greatness is never created in a moment, it's revealed in a moment. The capabilities that will make you indispensable tomorrow are being developed in the silence of today. The skills that will solve tomorrow's problems are being sharpened in today's challenges. The character that will lead tomorrow's breakthrough is being forged in today's struggles. There's a woman named Rachel who worked as a night shift nurse in a small hospital. For 15 years, she dealt with the most difficult patients, the most complex cases, the situations that everyone else avoided. While other nurses complained about the challenging assignments, Rachel studied them. While others saw problems, Rachel saw patterns. While others counted the hours until their shift ended, Rachel counted the lessons she was learning. Nobody noticed Rachel's dedication. Nobody celebrated her insights. Nobody acknowledged her growing expertise. She was just the night shift nurse who handled the tough cases. But Rachel wasn't working for recognition. She was working for preparation. She wasn't developing skills for applause. She was developing skills for purpose. One night, a patient arrived in critical condition with symptoms that baffled everyone. The doctors couldn't diagnose the problem. The specialists were stumped. The patient was dying, and nobody knew why. But Rachel had seen this before. Not exactly this, but pieces of this, fragments of this puzzle scattered across 15 years of difficult cases. He approached the lead doctor with her observation. He barely looked up from his charts. "I've been treating patients like this for 30 years, he said dismissively. "I think I know what I'm doing." But the patient kept getting worse. The family was losing hope. Time was running out. Finally, desperation overruled pride. They listened to Rachel. They followed her recommendation. The patient recovered completely. What the experts couldn't figure out in hours, Rachel had recognized in minutes. Not because she was smarter, but because she was prepared. Not because she was more educated, but because she was more experienced in the specific type of challenge they were facing today. Rachel is the head of emergency medicine at one of the country's leading hospitals. The same doctors who once dismissed her now seek her guidance. The same institution that once overlooked her now depends on her. But Rachel wasn't transformed that night. She was revealed. This is how preparation works. It's not glamorous, it's not celebrated, it's not even noticed, but it's absolutely essential. While others are looking for shortcuts to success, you're taking the long road to mastery. While others are hoping for lucky breaks, you're creating your own opportunities through consistent growth. Every difficult situation you face is developing your problem-solving abilities. Every challenge you overcome is strengthening your resilience. Every setback you survive is building your character. Every skill you develop in private is preparing you for public responsibility. The world sees your present circumstances and judges your future potential, but they don't see the internal development that's happening. They don't see the wisdom you're gaining from experience. They don't see the strength you're building through adversity. They don't see the expertise you're developing through practice. You're not the same person you were a year ago, even if you're in the same position. You're not the same person you were 5 years ago, even if you're facing similar challenges. You're growing, developing, evolving, becoming. The process of preparation is transforming you into the person who will be ready when the opportunity comes. This is why you must never despise the place where you are while you're becoming who you need to be. This is why you must never waste the experiences that are developing your capabilities. This is why you must never rush the process that is preparing you for your purpose. Because when your moment comes, when the crisis hits, when the need becomes urgent, you won't become great in that moment. You will reveal the greatness that was developed in all the moments before. And then it happens. The moment arrives when everything changes. Not because you changed, but because the world's need finally caught up with your capability. The crisis that everyone feared becomes the stage where your preparation finally gets to perform. Let me tell you about David. He was the quiet accountant in a mid-sized company. For 8 years, he sat in his small office, crunching numbers while everyone else made the big decisions. He watched the company make choices that he knew were financially dangerous. He saw patterns in the data that others missed. He understood market trends that others ignored, but nobody asked for his opinion. Nobody valued his insights. He was just the accountant who made sure the books balanced. Then 2008 happened. The financial crisis hit like a hurricane, and companies everywhere started collapsing. David's company was no exception. Sales plummeted, debts mounted, panic spread through the executive offices. The CEO called emergency meetings. The board brought in expensive consultants. Everyone was looking for someone to blame, someone to fire, someone to sacrifice. But David wasn't panicking. He had been preparing for this moment for years. While others were optimistic about the good times, David was studying the patterns that predicted the bad times. While others were celebrating the profits, David was analyzing the risks. While others were spending like the money would never run out, David was planning for when it would. In the emergency board meeting, while executives were arguing and consultants were presenting complicated theories, David stood up. For the first time in 8 years, he spoke up in a room full of decision makers. He didn't just identify the problems, he had the solutions. He didn't just explain what was wrong, he showed them exactly how to fix it within 6 months. David had not only saved the company, but had positioned it to thrive during the recession. While their competitors were closing doors, David's strategies were opening new opportunities. While other companies were laying off workers, David's insights were creating new jobs. The quiet accountant who nobody noticed had become the visionary leader everyone needed today. David is the CEO of that same company. The people who once ignored him now hang on his every word. The executives who once dismissed him now seek his approval. The board that once overlooked him now depends on him completely. But David didn't become a leader that day. He revealed the leadership that had been developing in silence for years. This is how recognition works. It doesn't happen gradually. It happens suddenly. One day you're invisible, the next day you're indispensable. One day you're ignored, the next day you're essential. One day you're dismissed, the next day you're desperately needed. The world operates on a crisis recognition cycle. During good times, people ignore potential solutions because they don't see the need for them. During bad times, they desperately search for those same solutions because they can't survive without them. Your value doesn't change between good times and bad times. What changes is the world's ability to recognize your value. This is why you must never measure your worth by how much attention you receive during peaceful times. This is why you must never judge your potential by how much recognition you get during comfortable seasons. This is why you must never determine your value by how much applause you hear during easy moments, because your moment is coming. The situation that will require your specific talents is developing. The crisis that will make your capabilities essential is forming. The need that will make you indispensable is growing. And when that moment arrives, when the crisis hits, when the need becomes urgent, you won't be the person they doubted, you'll be the person they desperately need. But here's what I need you to understand. Your worth was never determined by their recognition. Your value was never dependent on their applause. Your potential was never limited by their understanding. You don't become valuable when they finally notice you. You were always valuable. You don't become capable when they finally need you. You were always capable. You don't become important when they finally call on you. You were always important. Let me tell you about a man named Samuel. He was a taxi driver in New York City for 23 years, every day. He picked up passengers who treated him like he was invisible. Businessmen talked on their phones as if he wasn't there. Tourists complained about traffic as if it was his fault. Rich people counted their money in his back seat while he struggled to pay his own bills. But Samuel had a secret. He was a brilliant mathematician. He had solved problems that universities had been working on for decades. He had developed formulas that could revolutionize industries. He had insights that could change the world, but nobody knew, nobody asked, nobody cared. He was just a taxi driver. Samuel didn't stop learning because people didn't recognize his intelligence. He didn't stop growing because people didn't appreciate his potential. He didn't stop developing because people didn't value his contributions. Every night, after driving for 12 hours, he would go home and work on his mathematical theories. Every weekend, while others were relaxing, he was solving complex equations. Every vacation day, while others were entertaining themselves, he was expanding his knowledge. His wife sometimes wondered why he bothered. Nobody cares about your math, she would say. Nobody even knows you're smart. Why don't you just focus on making more money driving? But Samuel understood something his wife didn't. He wasn't developing his gifts for their recognition. He was developing his gifts for his purpose. One day, Samuel picked up a passenger who was frantically talking on his phone. The man was a CEO of a major tech company, and he was in crisis. His company had a problem that was costing them millions of dollars every day. They had hired the best minds in the industry. They had consulted with experts from around the world. Nothing was working. The solution remained elusive, and the company was facing disaster. Samuel listened to the conversation from the front seat. He understood the problem immediately. Not only did he understand it, but he had already solved it 3 years earlier, working alone in his apartment. He had developed the exact formula they needed. But he was just a taxi driver. Who would listen to him when they reached the destination? The CEO was still frustrated, still searching for answers. Samuel took a deep breath and turned around. "Excuse me, sir," he said quietly. "I couldn't help but overhear your conversation. I believe I have the solution to your problem." The CEO looked at him with surprise, then irritation. "Look, I appreciate the thought, but this is a highly complex technical issue. I doubt you could understand it." But something in Samuel's eyes made him pause. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was intuition. Maybe it was grace. "You know what? Tell me what you think." Samuel pulled out a piece of paper and began writing. Not words, but equations. Complex, beautiful, elegant equations that solved the problem completely. The CEO's irritation turned to amazement, then to excitement, then to disbelief. "This is impossible," he said. "How do you know this? Who are you?" "I'm just a taxi driver," Samuel replied. "But I'm also a mathematician. I've been working on problems like this for over 20 years. I solved this particular equation 3 years ago. Within a week, Samuel was hired as the chief mathematical officer of the company. His solution didn't just solve their immediate problem, it revolutionized their entire industry. The taxi driver who had been invisible for 23 years became the most sought-after expert in his field. Companies around the world wanted his insights. Governments wanted him to teach. Governments wanted his advice. But here's the most important part of Samuel's story. He didn't become a brilliant mathematician when the CEO recognized him. He had been a brilliant mathematician all along. He didn't become valuable when the company hired him. He had been valuable for decades. He didn't become important when the world finally noticed him. He had been important the entire time. The only thing that changed was their ability to see what had always been there. The only thing that shifted was their willingness to look beyond their assumptions. The only thing that transformed was their capacity to recognize value that didn't come in the package they expected. This is your story too. Right now, while people are doubting you, while they're overlooking you, while they're dismissing you, you are developing capabilities that will one day be essential. You are solving problems that will one day be critical. You are preparing for moments that will one day be historic. Your value doesn't fluctuate based on their opinion. Your worth doesn't rise and fall with their recognition. Your importance doesn't depend on their acknowledgement. You are who you are. You have what you have. You can do what you can do, regardless of whether they see it or not. So continue growing when they're not watching. Continue learning when they're not listening. Continue developing when they're not appreciating. Continue becoming when they're not believing. Because your growth is not for their entertainment. Your development is not for their applause. Your preparation is not for their approval. Your preparation is for your purpose. Your development is for your destiny. Your growth is for your moment. And when that moment comes, when the crisis hits, when the need becomes urgent, you'll be ready. Not because you became something new, but because you revealed what was always there. The world needs what you have. The world needs who you are. The world needs what you can do. They just don't know it yet. But they will. Oh, they will. Because the same voice that whispers, "You're not good enough," today will shout, "Thank God you're here tomorrow." The same people who doubt you today will depend on you tomorrow. The same world that overlooks you today will need you tomorrow. Stay ready, stay focused, stay committed, stay growing. Because your moment is coming. The situation that will require your specific talents is forming. The crisis that will make your capabilities essential is developing. The need that will make you indispensable is approaching. And when that moment arrives, you won't be the person they doubted. You'll be the person they desperately need. You won't be the one they dismissed. You'll be the one they depend on. You won't be the one they overlooked. You'll be the one they can't do without. They'll doubt you until they need you. But you were always who you needed to be. You always had what the world needed. You were always ready for your moment. The only question is, are you ready to show them what they missed?